Anonymous concerns about your loyalty, the Pentagon investigator stated. Accusations of foreign contacts. My mother had called in a favor from her congressman friend. Dad expected I'd lose my little government job. The investigator opened my file, then immediately closed it. He excused everyone from the room. I know who you are. Operation Nightfall. You're the reason I came home from Kabul. Who exactly is trying to compromise? We've received anonymous concerns about your loyalty to the United States, the Pentagon investigator stated, his face carefully neutral, as he spread documents across my parents' dining room table. Accusations of foreign contacts, suspicious financial transactions, potential ties to hostile intelligence services. My mother sat rigidly in her chair, her perfectly manicured hands folded with satisfaction, while my father leaned back, with the smug expression of a man who expected to watch his disappointing daughter finally get what she deserved. What neither of them knew, what the investigator himself didn't yet realize, was that the little government job they had been trying to destroy was actually a position so classified that acknowledging it could compromise national security. The investigation had been my mother's doing. Patricia Wentworth Ashford had spent 30 years building connections in Washington, charity, gallows, political fundraisers, strategic friendships with people who could make things happen. When she called in a favor from her congressman friend, she'd expected a routine security review that would embarrass me. She said to me, possibly cost me my clearance and forced me to come crawling back to the family fold. It's for your own good, she told my sister Vivian 2 weeks ago, thinking I couldn't hear. Stephanie has been living this fantasy for too long, working for the government, pretending she's important. A security investigation will show her just how disposable she really is. My father, George Ashford III, had agreed. In his world, success meant the family business, Ashford Maritime, a shipping empire that had made generations of Ashfords wealthy beyond imagination. My refusal to join the company after graduating from MIT had been an unforgivable betrayal. She thinks she is special because she has a PhD in linguistics and works for some alphabet agency, he'd scoffed. Let us see how special she feels when they pull her clearance and she has to beg for a real job. They had no idea what they'd set in motion. The investigator's name was Marcus Webb, retired Army, now with the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. He was professional, thorough, and clearly experienced with sensitive cases. Dr. Ashford, he began, I need to ask you some questions about your employment history and foreign contacts. Of course, your current position is listed as Senior Analyst with the Department of Defense. Is that accurate? That's what my unclassified employment record states, yes. He noticed my careful phrasing. Good investigators always do. Are there aspects of your work that require a higher classification level? Yes. Can you elaborate? Not without compartmented access authorization. My mother shifted impatiently. Just answer the questions, Stephanie. This is ridiculous. Marcus held up a hand. Ma'am, please let me conduct the interview. He opened my personnel file, the standard one, the cover that existed for exactly these situations. He scanned the first page, the second, the third. Then he reached the addendum. I watched his face change. The professional neutrality cracked, just for a moment. His eyes widened slightly. He read something, reread it, then looked up at me with an expression I had seen before, on the faces of people who suddenly realized they in the presence of something they do and fully understand. I need to make a phone call, he said. Is there a problem? My father demanded. I need to make a phone call. Marcus stood abruptly. Everyone please remain here. He stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind him. Through the wall, I could hear the murmur of his voice, but not the words. My mother turned to me triumphantly. See? He's probably calling to verify the allegations. You're in serious trouble, Stephanie. Mother, you have no idea what you've done. I've done what's necessary. Someone had to expose whatever lies you've been telling about your important work. The truth is, you're a secretary or a translator or some other replaceable. The door opened. Marcus returned, but he wasn't alone. 2 more people had appeared, a woman in civilian clothes who had the unmistakable bearing of senior intelligence, and a man in an army uniform with colonel's insignia. Mr. and Mrs. Ashford, Marcus said, I need you to leave the room. Excuse me? My father stood, his face reddening. This is my house. This interview has been reclassified. The remainder of this conversation requires a security clearance none of you possess. He looked at my parents, my sister, her husband. All of you. Out. Now. You can't just— Sir. The colonel's voice cut through my father's protest like a blade. This is not a request. If you refuse to leave, I'm authorized to have you detained for interfering with a national security matter. My family stared, stunned. Stephanie. My mother's voice had lost its confidence. What is this? Please leave, Mother. I'll explain what I can afterward. They filed out slowly, confusion replacing smugness. The door closed behind them. The woman in civilian clothes sat down across from me. Her expression was unreadable. Dr. Ashford. I'm Deputy Director Catherine Sterling, NSA. This is Colonel Davis, Army Intelligence. Ma'am, we have a situation. Your family filed complaints that triggered a security review normally. Routine, but your file flagged immediately due to your clearance level. Agent Webb didn't have the authorization to read most of it. I assumed as much. We need to discuss who initiated this investigation and why. Because from our perspective, it looks like someone is attempting to compromise one of our most valuable assets. Marcus Webb cleared his throat. Ma'am, before we continue, I need to say something. Deputy Director Sterling raised an eyebrow. Dr. Ashford's file. The unclassified portion included reference to a code name. Operation Nightfall. He paused, and I saw something shift in his expression, something personal. I was in Kabul in 2018. My unit was ambushed. Taliban had perfect intelligence on our movements. We should have all died that night. Ud Amamberith Kabur. I remembered the intercepted communications, the frantic hours of decryption and analysis, the warning I'd been able to get through just hours before the planned ambush. We received extraction coordinates from an unknown source. Someone had decoded enemy communications and identified the threat before it happened. 17 men came home because of that intelligence. Marcus looked at me directly. The code name on that intelligence package was Nightfall. That was you. I said nothing. I couldn't confirm or deny classified operations, even to someone who benefited from them. That was you, he repeated. You're the reason I came home to my daughters. Deputy Director Sterling intervened. Agent Webb, I appreciate the sentiment, but we need to focus on the current situation. Someone in Dr. Ashford's family is actively attempting to compromise her security clearance using false allegations. That's not just a family dispute. It's potentially a federal crime. Colonel Davis leaned forward. Dr. Ashford, we need to understand the family dynamics here. Why would your parents want to damage your career? I took a deep breath. Because they don't know I have a career. They believe I'm a low-level government employee who abandoned the family business out of spite. They've spent 15 years dismissing my work as unimportant. They don't know what you do. My cover is a mid-level analyst position. That's what appears on my tax returns, my public employment records, everything my family could access. They've never asked deeper questions, because they've never believed I was capable of anything significant. And this investigation? My mother has connections in Washington. She used them to file anonymous concerns about my loyalty. I assume she fabricated allegations of foreign contacts, suspicious behavior, whatever sounded damaging. I paused. She expected a routine review that would embarrass me and possibly cost me my job. She didn't realize that targeting someone at my clearance level would trigger immediate counterintelligence protocols. Deputy Director Sterling shook her head slowly. The irony is remarkable. Your mother tried to prove you're nobody important, and instead she set off alarms that reached the highest levels of the intelligence community. What happens now? I asked. That depends on what we find. If this was simply family pettiness taken too far, we'll deal with it quietly. If there's any evidence of actual coordination with foreign entities, even unwitting coordination, the consequences will be severe. My parents aren't traitors. They're just cruel, Marcus Webb finished quietly. I was going to say disconnected from my reality. But yes, that too. The investigation took 3 days. The NSA team traced the anonymous allegations to their source, a letter sent from my mother's personal computer, using a pseudonym, but containing details only she could have known. The concerned citizen who decontacted the congressman was actually a family friend who owed my mother favors. The accusations themselves were laughable upon examination. The suspicious financial transactions were charitable donations to veterans organizations. The foreign contacts were references I'd provided for a colleague's academic paper. None of it held up to scrutiny. But the investigation revealed something else. My mother had discussed her plan at a country club dinner within earshot of several people who had no business hearing such conversations. The information had spread, been discussed, potentially reached individuals who might have genuine hostile intent. She hadn't committed treason, but she'd been careless with information about a classified employee, which was its own kind of serious. Colonel Davis explained the situation to my parents in their living room while I watched. Mr. and Mrs. Ashford, filing false allegations against a government employee is a federal crime. Filing false allegations against an employee with Dr. Ashford's clearance level is significantly more serious. My father's face had gone pale. We didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't ask. You assumed you could damage your daughter's career without consequences, and you were wrong. What's going to happen? My mother whispered. That's being determined. At minimum, you'll both be required to sign non-disclosure agreements. Any further discussion of Dr. Ashford's employment, any contact with government officials regarding her work, any attempt to interfere with her career will result in immediate prosecution. And the allegations we filed? Withdrawn. Expunged. Never happened. Colonel Davis's voice was ice. But the counterintelligence investigation you triggered will remain in our files. Your names will be flagged. Any security-related applications you make in the future, anything involving your business, government contracts, international shipping permits, will note this incident. My father understood immediately. Ashford Maritime did significant business with federal agencies. A flag in their files could cost millions. This is retaliation, he said weakly. This is consequence. You attempted to weaponize the security clearance system against your own daughter. The system responded. My mother was crying now. The delicate, performative tears of a woman who'd never faced real accountability. Stephanie, please. We didn't understand. If you just told us what you really do, I couldn't tell you. I still can't tell you. That's what classified means. I stood up from my chair. You spent 15 years dismissing me, mocking my career, treating me like a failure, because I didn't want to count shipping containers for the rest of my life. And when I wouldn't break, you tried to break me through government channels. We were worried about you. You were embarrassed by me. Because I didn't fit your vision of success. Because I chose my own path. I shook my head. And the path I chose? It matters. More than you'll ever know. Deputy Director Sterling stepped forward. Dr. Ashford, we should go. The debrief is scheduled for 1400. Yes, ma'am. I walked toward the door, then paused. Agent Webb saved 17 lives in Kabul, I said without turning around. There are others. Missions you'll never hear about. People who came home to their families because of work I did. Work you called playing secretary. Work you tried to destroy. I walked out of my parents' house and didn't look back. 6 months later, I was at a coffee shop in Georgetown when my sister Vivian appeared. Can we talk? I gestured to the empty chair across from me. Vivian sat down slowly like she was afraid I might bolt. I didn't know about the investigation until it was already happening. I swear. But you didn't stop it either. I didn't think it would. I didn't understand what they were doing. Mom said it was just a routine review, that it would help you somehow. She paused. That was stupid. I know that now. What do you want, Vivian? I want to understand, not the classified parts. I know you can't talk about that. But just who you really are. What your life is actually like. I considered my sister. We'd been close as children before the family expectations had driven us onto different paths. She'd followed the script, business degree, family company, suitable marriage. I'd rebelled. My life is complicated, I said finally. I work very long hours doing things I can't discuss. I travel to places I can't mention. I've done things that weigh on me and things I'm proud of, and I can't talk about any of it. Does it make you happy? I thought about it. Happy isn't the right word. Fulfilled, maybe? I know that what I do matters. That's enough. Mom and Dad are struggling. The incident with the investigation, it rattled them. Dad's been different. Quieter. Good. Stephanie, They tried to destroy my career because they couldn't accept that I had chosen something they didn't understand. They didn't ask questions or try to learn. They just assumed I was failing and decided to prove it. I met my sister's eyes. That's not parenting, that's control. And I'm done being controlled. Is there any chance you could forgive them? Forgiveness requires acknowledgement. Has either of them actually acknowledged what they did? Not the consequences, the act itself. Have they said, "We were wrong to dismiss you. We were wrong to try to hurt you. We're sorry for not seeing who you really are"? Vivian's silence was answer enough. Then no. There's no chance. They're getting older, Stephanie. Dad's health isn't great. If something happens, and you haven't reconciled, then I'll live with that. Because I already know that I tried. For 15 years, I tried. I invited them to my PhD graduation. I shared what I could about my work. I asked them to trust me, even when I couldn't explain. And they responded with mockery, dismissal, and ultimately an attempt to destroy what I'd built. I finished my coffee. You're welcome to have a relationship with me, Vivian. I'd actually like that. But it has to be on honest terms. No intermediary missions for Mom and Dad. No guilt trips about family unity. Just us, as sisters, getting to know each other as adults. I'd like that too. Then let's start there. A year after the investigation, I received a call from Marcus Webb. "Dr. Ashford? I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I got your contact information through official channels. Agent Webb, how can I help you? I'm retiring next month, moving to Maine to be closer to my grandchildren." He paused. "I wanted to thank you again. For Kabul, for all of it." "You don't have to thank me. I do. Because every day with my family is a day I wouldn't have had without you. My daughters grew up with a father. My wife didn't have to bury me. That matters." I felt something tighten in my throat. "It matters to me too. That's why I do this work. Your parents have things improved. But I've made peace with that. Some wounds don't heal. You just learn to live with the scars. For what it's worth, the day I walked into that investigation expecting to find a security risk, and instead found a hero. That essay day I'll never forget. Your family may not see who you are, but the people who matter do. Thank you, Agent Webb. Enjoy retirement. Stay safe out there, Nightfall." I smiled at the code name. Always. Last month, I received word that my father had a heart attack. He survived, but it was serious. The family gathered at the hospital, my mother, Vivian, various aunts and uncles. No one contacted me. No. I found out through Vivian's hesitant text message, "Dad's in the hospital. Heart attack. Not sure if you want to know, but I thought you should." I sat with that information for a long time. In the end, I didn't go. Not to the hospital. Not to the family gatherings that followed. I sent flowers, anonymous ones, because I didn't want the gesture to become a negotiation. And I waited. 2 weeks later, I received a letter handwritten from my father, Stephanie. "I understand now why you didn't come. I wouldn't have come either if I were you. The investigation, what we did, was unforgivable. Your mother thought she was protecting the family, but I knew better. I knew we were trying to hurt you, to force you back under our control. I went along with it because I was angry that you'd become someone I couldn't influence. I don't know what you really do. I'll never know. But lying in that hospital bed, thinking I might die, I realized something. I've spent 15 years punishing my daughter for being extraordinary. For choosing her own path. For becoming something I couldn't even imagine. I'm sorry. Those words aren't enough, but they're true. If you never want to see me again, I understand. But I wanted you to know that I finally see you, not as the daughter who left, but as the woman who became something remarkable in spite of us. Your father." I read the letter 3 times. Then I called my father. "Stephanie." His voice was weak, surprised. "I got your letter." Silence. "I'm not ready to forgive you," I said. "I don't know if I ever will be. But I'm willing to talk. To try to build something new. That's more than I deserve." "Yes, it is." I paused. "Get better. Dad. We have a lot of years to make up for." I hung up before I could say anything else. Before the emotions could overwhelm the boundaries I needed to maintain. My family had tried to destroy my career. They triggered an investigation that reached the highest levels of national security. And in the end, All they deep proven was what I had known all along, that I was exactly who I had chosen to become. Not Stephanie Ashford, disappointing daughter. Not a mid-level analyst, replaceable and insignificant. I was Nightfall. And I was finally seen.